In this edition, Le Jog, an unusual rally through Britain. The XF Sportbrake, Jaguar's new station wagon. And the Audi A3 convertible. Hitting the German market at the start of the new year, Audi's new A3 convertible brings greetings from summer to the depths of winter. The new model is based on the two-door sedan instead of the short three-door. That makes this little guy a good 20 centimeters longer. Car tester Klaus Nietzwitz says you notice immediately that Audi has changed a lot in this new model. It's bigger, which means passengers in front and back have a little more room, but you don't want to be too tall if you're in the back seat. Words like sleek and elegant come to mind. The bigger wheelbase adds leg space in back. As always, a single-frame grille dominates the car's front. It's flanked by optional LED headlights. The car's rear also recalls its sedan origins. With its muscular design, the Audi A3 convertible is a convincing package. A shoulder line that broadens toward the back adds a touch of elegance. Audi's Danny Geron says the carmaker wanted more sportiness in the new A3 ragtop. A car even closer to the road, much flatter, much broader, and with added elegance too. Last but not least, there's the added length, which Audi has stretched way out this time. Audi now offers a choice of 3 engines for the A3 convertible. 2 direct injection gasoline engines with 1.4 and 1.8 liters. There's also a 2-liter turbo diesel. And soon a 1.6-liter TDI hits the market for the more economy-minded. And if you want more power, there's the S3 convertible. The 2-liter TDI we tested generates 110 kilowatts of power. It officially uses 4.2 liters of fuel per 100 kilometers, goes from 0 to 100 in 8.9 seconds, and has a peak speed of 224 kilometers per hour. Klaus remembers a time when convertibles were an adventure to control while driving. Crossing railroad tracks or speed bumps always sent the steering wheel spinning. But this is a completely different story. The car is practically stiff and handles just beautifully. There's still a slight understeer, but you never feel insecure, not even driving fast into a curve. The new convertible keeps its traditional ragtop, but cuts its weight by 50 kilos. For an extra 250 euros, Audi offers an optional insulated hood that provides a quieter environment. In just 18 seconds, you're under the open sky, and the hood retracts at speeds up to 50 kilometers per hour. Klaus has one point to criticize. With all 4 seats occupied, you can't use the wind deflector, and everyone gets the hairdryer treatment. Elegant lines and clean surfaces grace the interior. Those who extend their top-down driving into autumn weather will love the warm air vent on their necks. It'll be appreciated on cooler summer evenings, too. And thanks to the extended back end, the sporty 4-seater offers 60 liters more cargo space, adding up to 287 liters total, without flipping over the back seats. Klaus says the Mazda MX-5 launched the convertible and roadster boom in 1989. Many worthy successors have hit the road since, but in his opinion, this one, the A3 without a roof, is one of the best in its class. It's the real deal. The Audi A3 convertible sticker price is also a square deal. Starting at 31,700 euros, it's a lot of car for the money. The Le Jag Rally starts at Land's End in the southwest corner of England and finishes way up on Scotland's north coast. And this year, Team Pink Petrol becomes the first German women's team to take part in the race. More than 70 vehicles are competing this year. All of the cars have to have been built before 1984. A technical inspection is performed to make sure the car is in its original state. The navigator has to plot the route using 30 maps. An adventure lies ahead for Team Pink Petrol. Stephanie Edelhoff explains that the Le Jag doesn't just call on the skills of only the driver or only the navigator. They both have plenty to do, and you can't underestimate the navigation. It's a challenge. Over the 2,400 kilometers from start to finish, there are plenty of tests to keep the teams occupied. The winner isn't just the car that gets to the finish line first, it's the one that collects the fewest penalty points. That requires savvy and courage and plenty of driving skill. The first test comes right at the start. The others are dotted along the route under the supervision of helpers.
There's a course laid out via the cones, and they have to start at the start line. They go follow a route through the cones are marked out, and it's timed from start to finish. The hat's tradition, no event starts until I've got the hat on. Once I've got the hat on, then we can start the event, which means everything's in order, everything's safe, everything's ready to run.
What's the problem?
We've got a problem over there. Excuse me a second, guys, sorry.
The long journey puts the older vehicles under strain, not to mention the drivers. The British weather can also make it more difficult to make it to the checkpoints within the time limits. The teams have to give it their all to avoid penalty points. Sandra Vukovic says Team Pink Petrol collected a few points today. There was a special stage and they had to be there by noon. The helpers left it out an extra 8 minutes just for them, but they still missed it by 2 minutes.
Und jetzt haben wir es aber leider wieder 2 Minuten verpasst.
But there's no time to take a break. There are 2 night stages that force drivers to continue into the early hours of the morning. In fact, the most exciting test on the tour takes place in the dark. Driving through water is a huge risk, especially for teams driving sports cars. Some people change their minds at the last minute, but Team Pink Petrol are well prepared. Their Volkswagen Iltis plows through the flood. No sweat for a car like this. Stephanie Edelhoff is thrilled. At first she thought, what are we doing here? The guy in front of them bailed out. She really wondered if they'd pull it off. But they did, and it's a great feeling. There's even steam coming out of the car. A glorious sunrise greets the competitors as they reach the finish line at John O'Groats. Just getting here is something to celebrate. Pink Petrol and their Iltis can be proud. It's a job well done, Stephanie says. They arrived after a long night, and it was a tough battle through the special stages, but Stephanie says it was fantastic. With Le Jag, it's not all about winning. The journey is what counts. So the team cracks out the champagne to toast their 57th place finish. With the new RCZR, Peugeot brings its most powerful mass-produced model ever to the market. Powered by a fuel-injected 1.6-liter engine with twin-scroll turbocharging, this sports car, with its 199 kilowatts, is destined for the road and the track. The world's priciest Lamborghini is here. Almost 4 million euros is what the Veneno Roadster costs in Germany. Worldwide, only 9 will be built in 2014, and only without a roof. With its 750 horsepower and 355 kilometers per hour top speed, this rarity is mind-blowing to drive and just to look at. When you think of Jaguar, a station wagon isn't the first thing that comes to mind. The XF Sportbrake could change that. Matas Kurat, our car tester, is taking it for a spin. He says the workmanship and materials are all top-notch, and there are a few extras that aren't really necessary, but they sure are fun. Like these air conditioning vents, which disappear when the air is turned off, and pop out again when you turn it back on. Meet and greet vents. In other words, not necessary, but nice. The XF Sportbrake is to take on the German opposition, including BMW's 5 Series, and it does just that. There's plenty of high-tech, and the luxury interior features a mix of leather and aluminum, and lots of hidden compartments for those who like that sort of thing. The seats are wrapped in leather, of course. We're testing the 2.2-liter 4-cylinder diesel engine with 147 kilowatts under the hood. It does the sprint to 100 in 8.5 seconds. Top speed is 225 kilometers an hour. Fuel consumption is rated at just over 5 liters per 100 kilometers. Anytime you get behind the wheel of Jaguar, Matas says, you're looking forward to a special ride. But the XF Sportbrake doesn't quite live up to those expectations. The 2.2-liter 4-cylinder diesel engine is quite noisy and has a raw sound to it. The transmission changes gears constantly, looking for the RPM that will deliver the power. That's just not quite what you expect of a Jaguar.
Das ist nicht das, was ich von einem Jaguar erwarte.
On the plus side, though, fuel consumption is quite reasonable at about 7 liters per 100 kilometers in actual driving conditions. On the exterior, the Sportbrake shows what it's made of. It's sleek and aggressive, with xenon headlights and a fierce attitude that makes it clear this car is a predator. And just like inside, the exterior sports plenty of chrome. Just under 5 meters stem to stern makes for a roomy trunk. It's 510 liters, going up to a capacity of 1,635 liters when the rear seats are down. Matas has been on the road for a while now, and he says he still hasn't managed to adjust the seats to give him a comfortable ride. Some people will like them, but for Matas, the ergonomics don't work.
Für mich gemacht sind diese Sitze leider nicht.
The suspension does a good job cushioning the bumps on the road. When it comes to driver assistance systems, the XF is more on the restrained side. There's a rear view camera, a blind spot monitor, ESP, and a high beam assistant. And that's it. It's good, but not truly top-notch. All in all, Matas says it's a solid effort. He's got a few bones to pick with the engine, and the seats just aren't quite to his liking. But the Jaguar cuts a good figure. It's comparatively affordable for a luxury brand, and of course, there's the prestige factor. Matas would shell out for a more powerful engine, though, and better quality seats if they're an available option. The XF Sportbrake is listed in Germany for about 49,000 euros, standard. There's a long list of options to go along with that, though. Our car critic Christoph Bauer is in Wolfsburg's car museum looking for an interesting car to try out. Of the 200 automotive milestones on display, his attention is drawn to a revolutionary design that flopped on the market. NSU's RO80. Introduced in 1967, the futuristic sedan featured a number of groundbreaking innovations. It was the first German automobile to win Europe's Car of the Year award. Christoph says NSU, which until then had only made small cars, built the RO80 as a full-fledged attempt at an upmarket mid-size car. It had a rotary engine, a futuristic design, front-wheel drive, fully independent suspension, and disc brakes on each wheel. All the ingredients for success, it seemed. NSU's marketing campaign invited comparison with the established players. Here, a proud new owner tells his friend the car has amazing aerodynamics. NSU gambled that the rotary engine and advanced aerodynamics would be enough to challenge Mercedes and BMW. The advantages of the rotary piston engine are that it produces very little vibration and has good revving power. Unfortunately, the engine also had chronic problems. Many owners had to replace engines after less than 20,000 kilometers. Christoph says people used to joke that drivers had a special greeting to show how many engines their car had already gone through. And in fact, the engine did initially have bugs. NSU had to replace so many for free that the company's accountants were in shock. But by 1970, the engine problems had been solved. This car from 1977 still purrs sweetly with its original engine. Rotary engines get their power from high engine speed instead of engine size. The RO80 engine displaced just 1 liter, but produced 115 horsepower and had a top speed of 180 kilometers an hour. This 45-year-old car feels almost as civilized as a modern car. Well, almost.
Was ist das denn? Hofti-Pofti.
A loud bang from the exhaust leads Christoph to remark that this car seems to think it's a rocket. He says that although it's not especially sporty, it is a great-looking car. Features like the low wedge-like shape and sharply raked windshield, which is great for the aerodynamics, catch the eye. But the most distinctive touch for Christoph is this crease that goes all the way around the car and gives it a tidy elegance. That tidiness ends under the hood, however, where a nest of pipes and hoses hides the little rotary engine.
Und irgendwo da unten, da sitzt er, der kleine Wankelmotor.
The smooth body shape gave the car a drag coefficient of 0.35, which was sensational at the time, and better than that of a modern-day Audi R8 sports car. The interior is straightforward and unpretentious. An automatic transmission, power steering, and the big, cushy seats make it a comfortable car for longer trips. The engine is mounted low, which gives the car a low center of gravity and makes the aerodynamic shape possible. But there's one other problem. Rotary engines in general are not very fuel efficient, and tooling around these country roads in Tuscany, the RO80 burns up 17 liters of gasoline for every 100 kilometers. The transmission doesn't help. The RO80 has a semi-automatic transmission. There's no clutch pedal, so the driver just moves the gear shift to change gears. Christoph says that takes some getting used to, but it works fine. The only problem is the automatic shifts slowly, and there's not much torque. So even with 115 horsepower, it's not a very sporty car.
Trotz 115 PS, nicht gerade eine sportliche Angelegenheit.
Accelerating from 0 to 100 takes about 14 seconds, which wasn't bad for a sedan in the late 60s. But the rotary engine's performance makes driving the car a fairly unexciting endeavor. Instead, the RO80 feels sedate and distinguished. It's not easy being a revolutionary. Christoph says that while the RO80 was a failure at the time, its futuristic design and the rotary engine make it one of the most advanced cars of the 60s. For our tester, it marks a milestone in the development of the modern automobile.
Tschüss.